The day of my best friend Sarah's wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. And mine too, in a way. I was her maid of honor. We'd been inseparable since kindergarten, dreaming about this day for years. Sarah was marrying Mark, a guy from an incredibly wealthy family. His parents owned half the city, it seemed. Their wedding was the event of the year, held at a lavish estate with crystal chandeliers and an army of staff. I had helped Sarah plan everything, from the flower arrangements to her stunning designer gown. As her maid of honor, I wore a beautiful dress she'd picked out. But something felt off from the moment I arrived. Sarah, usually so warm and bubbly, was distant. She was surrounded by her new, high society friends, women I barely knew. They'd look at me, then whisper among themselves, their laughter like the clinking of ice in empty glasses. I tried to brush it off as wedding day jitters. The ceremony began under a breathtaking floral arch. I stood beside Sarah, holding her bouquet, my heart swelling with pride. But as the officiant began to speak, Mark's mother, a woman who looked like she was carved from marble, shot me a look of pure disdain. It was so cold it sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced at Sarah, hoping for a reassuring smile, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. She just stared straight ahead at Mark. Then came the moment for the V. As Sarah started speaking, her voice was steady, but her words felt rehearsed, lacking the genuine emotion I knew she had. When it was Mark's turn, he spoke of their future, of building an empire together, of their perfect life, in their perfect world. It sounded more like a business merger than a declaration of love. After the vows, just as the officiant was about to pronounce them husband and wife, a man in a sharp suit walked to the front. He handed the officiant a sealed envelope. A murmur went through the crowd. The officiant looked flustered, glancing at Mark's parents, who gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. He cleared his throat and announced, "There is one more thing before we conclude. A letter." He opened it and began to read. The letter was from Mark's parents. It started with pleasantries, congratulating the happy couple. But then the tone shifted. It became a list of expectations, a contract. It detailed the life Sarah was expected to lead as a member of their family. She was to quit her job as a teacher. She was to chair specific charities, chosen by them. She was to attend certain social events and, most importantly, she was to sever ties with anyone deemed unsuitable for their new social standing. My blood ran cold. I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, who they were talking about. The letter didn't name me, but it didn't have to. It spoke of friends from her former life who wouldn't fit in. Every eye in that room, I swear, turned to me. The rich guests, Mark's family, they all stared. It was a public branding, a formal decree of my expulsion from Sarah's life. Humiliation washed over me in a hot, sickening wave. I felt small, worthless, like a stain on their perfect white canvas. I looked at Sarah. Her face was pale. Tears were welling in her eyes, but she stood frozen, her hand tightly gripping Mark's. Mark just smiled, a smug, satisfied little smirk. He knew about this. This was all part of their plan. They weren't just getting a daughter-in-law. They were acquiring an asset and stripping her of any inconvenient attachments. And I was the first to be discarded. The officiant finished reading, and a tense silence filled the air. He looked at Sarah and Mark, waiting. I couldn't breathe. My best friend, the girl I'd shared every secret with, was about to publicly sacrifice our friendship for a life of wealth and status. I saw our entire history flash before my eyes. Scraped knees, sleepovers, whispered secrets, shared dreams. Was this how it ended? With a formal letter at her wedding? I wanted to run, to disappear. But my feet were glued to the floor. I had to see it through. I had to see her make her choice. This was her moment. Her life! The officiant prompted. Sarah! Sarah took a deep, shaky breath. She looked from Mark's smug face to his mother's icy glare. Then her eyes found mine. In that instant, I saw everything. The confusion, the hurt, the fear. And then, something else. A flicker of the old Sarah, the strong, compassionate girl I grew up with. She let go of Mark's hand. The gasp from the crowd was audible. Mark's smile vanished. Sarah, "What are you doing?" he hissed. She turned to face him completely. Her voice, when she spoke, was quiet but firm. "No," she said. "I can't do this." She looked at his parents. "I can't be the person you want me to be. I can't give up who I am, and I will not give up the people who have been my real family." She then turned to me, and the tears finally fell. "I am so sorry, Lena," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I am so sorry I let it get this far." She took the ridiculously expensive bouquet from my hands, turned, and dropped it on the floor. Then she took my hand. "Let's go," she said. Without looking back, we walked. We walked right down that aisle, past the shocked faces of the wealthiest people in the city. We walked out of that grand estate and into the sunlight. Sarah was still in her $1,000 wedding gown, and I was in my bridesmaid dress. We didn't know where we were going. We had no plan. But as we walked away, leaving the wreckage of that sham wedding behind us, I felt a sense of relief so profound it was almost dizzying. Sarah had been lost, tempted by a world that promised everything but demanded her soul in return. In that final moment, faced with an impossible choice, she chose herself. She chose our friendship. She chose loyalty over luxury. That day, Sarah didn't get a rich husband or a life of glamour. Instead, she got something far more valuable. She got her freedom back, and I got my best friend back. The wedding may have been a disaster, but as we walked down that long driveway, leaving the whispers and the judgment behind it, felt like the happiest day of our lives. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one we would write ourselves on our own terms, and we would do it together. Thank you for watching. If you were moved by this story, please like and subscribe for more content.